How's it going, everyone? Matic here, and today we're going over on how to do a nice hook kick.
Get off my plane!
That's not even the same.
No, not that kind. This kind. So the hook kick that we're going to go over is going to be in two kind of different categories. One is going to be for more point tournament and safe sparring uses, and the other one is for more practical or full contact uses. But regardless of which version we do, they both work on the same principles and mechanics. So first thing is, what we need to do is we need to go over the muscles that we are using when we do a hook kick. So the prep phase for doing a hook kick is kind of the same as a side kick. So where a side kick mostly uses the top portion of our hamstrings, which is primarily responsible for hip extension, which is basically this side kick movement. All right, the leg's just extending with a little bit of the quad, but the main leg is being powered by the higher part of our hamstrings. A hook kick, however, not only uses this hip extension, but it uses the lower part of our hamstrings that is responsible for bending our leg. So we're actually using the entire part of our hamstrings in order to throw a nice hook kick. So in order to throw a hook kick, you first need to be able to throw a fairly decent, if not really good, side kick, because the hip twist and motion is pretty much the same whether you're doing a side kick or a hook kick. The only difference is what your leg actually does. So in order to help go over that, we're going to need our good old chair. Cool. So again, the chair or anything that you use to hold on to is mostly so you can focus on the working leg. By this point, you should be able to do it fairly well, and you only need this for a little bit of stability. So if we go back to when we did our side kick, I said that you want to bring your knee up as high as possible, and for the training version, you want your foot to come over to the side, but when you're actually fighting, your foot is down the center. For a hook kick, when you execute the kick, your foot is going to be more off the center than the side kick, simply because it is going around and coming back. It is not going straight out. So just like with a side kick from here, so you can go ahead and prep your back foot to be slightly turned backwards, doesn't really much matter. Bring up knee nice and high, present your foot towards the target, and you're going to reach out to the side. So instead of going down the center, you're going to reach out to the side, depending if it's the point tournament or just safe sparring version or the more practical full contact version. You'll either point your toes so that you make contact with the foot, or keep your toes pulled back so you make contact with the heel. The heel is for more practical full contact. The bottom of the foot is for tournament and safe sparring. So knee up high, we're going to go slightly off center. So if we're doing the tournament version, point your foot. From here, you're going to extend to come to the center, and then bend your knee as much as you can. Then come back, return here, and then down. So again, knee as high as possible. We're kind of on the other side of the center line. Present. From here, we're off center. Come to center. You would actually be doing your little hip motion here. And then when you get the center, flex, come back, and then down. So together, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. See, little body twist. 5, 6, and then 7, 8. So some of you might be going, especially the full contact people, why am I bending or flexing my knee all the way if I'm throwing a hook kick? Shouldn't I keep my leg straight in order to resist the impact when I eventually hit something and I can just power through? Ultimate answer is only if you want to have knee surgery later. Like, oh wow, that seems hyperbolic. Think about it. Why do joints break? It's because they reach the range of motion limit and then they're forced to go past it. So if this is my leg, this is my knee, if I hit something continually this direction with no flex, basically no shock absorption in my leg, and I keep hitting like this, I'm going to constantly be putting pressure on this elbow, and eventually it's going to wear out or possibly break, and then you have to get it replaced. So I want to create, as my hook kick is coming, before it makes contact, I want to use muscle. I'm creating more tension, more power development by flexing here along with this in order to create more power. Now, when I'm saying bring your leg to center and then flex, I'm just giving you a working area to work the technique. In practice and sparring in real life, you have to experiment and figure out when's the appropriate time to start to flex the knee. So now we get to where we're actually hitting a target after you get comfortable doing it just in air with one side. So when we go to hit a target, this is where the experimentation comes from on when we start to flex the knee. Okay, so I'm in front of my target, so because it has width, I can't bring my leg to the center and then flex my leg. So I'm gonna come out a little bit more when I extend my leg, and then boom. So what I'm doing now is when I go to move my leg in with the top part of my hamstring, I am also flexing my leg. Boom, boom, boom. And now I'm putting energy into it. Now, when you're first starting this out, you might find that your hip rotation this way and hitting the target this way causes you to spin out away from your target. And the only real fix to that is just get better. But it's also that this is a very good kick to learn a really important principle, and that's learning on how to drive energy towards your target, especially with your legs. So instead of keeping my energy inside myself when I do this and I just spin in a circle, when I make contact, and if this was more stout or an actual person and they could provide more resistance, and I actually try to hit, I spin out when I don't want to. So this is a good kick that teaches you on how to drive energy into the actual target and stay within your means. So it kind of requires you on learning on how to get a heavy leg to sling energy down your leg and make it go in a straight line. This is kind of one of the same principles that when you throw a round kick, my energy goes into the target versus if I miss and my energy stays inside of me, I wind up spinning. If I can learn to drive my energy forward with my leg instead, I don't outspin even though I miss. There's also a little bit something else that I'll go over in a later video, but hook kick is very good for learning this type of principle, especially when you start hitting something that has some pretty good resistance. So for the more point tournament and safe sparring version, again, we're going to hit with the flat part of our foot, and this is where you really have to learn control. So I'm going to take my foot, and all I'm going to do is touch, 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 touch. That's all I'm learning, is just simple touch. Because with just touch, I can learn accuracy, and then later on I can add power. Now, what if I want to be more practical and a little bit more MMA or something like that? So we're going to start aiming with our heel, and this time instead of touching and coming back, boom, we're going to drive through a little bit. We're going to drive through. Not so much drive all the way past the target, but we're going to try to drive about to the other side of the target. So when I come up here, boom, boom, boom. So when I am making contact, so from here, I'm trying to aim for here. That's my goal. Boom, boom, boom. And the only reason I don't make it to here is because just the simple resistance of the back. I'm still putting quite a bit of force into my heel and into the target. So two things I want to leave you with, two tips for throwing a hook kick is, the first one is on how to build your flex when you flex your knee better, is hopefully you have something that you can hit. Get as close to it as you can. And so when you extend your leg, try to take your heel and hit your bag. hit your bag. Full extension out, hit the bag, hit the bag. Main reason is you might be in a position where they might come in, which then changes your engagement distance. But if you flex your knee, pow, you can still wind up getting them, especially in WKF type matches. Sometimes when they get in their form of a clinch or whatever, one person is capable of doing a hook kick and coming around fully and scoring points on someone. The other tip is that the higher that you go with a hook kick, kind of depending on flexibility and all that mess, height difference and all that, is that the higher that you go, and this is primarily with point tournaments and safe sparring versus practical, because practical stuff, you can just throw a hook kick to the body. This it wouldn't really much matter. But the higher that you go for a hook kick, in order to get it to reach, if you're hitting the limits of your flexibility, is that the more that you turn your body and drop your upper body, see how my leg raises as I drop my body? So if I turn when I do that, so if I turn, stay completely sideways when I do this and try to kick as high as I can, I'm about here. If I overturn my body a little bit, I'm now getting up to about here with about the same quality of kick. I'm not spinning out, I'm not really losing my balance all that much. Boom. I'm still able to reach, I'm just turning my body a little bit more. However, when you do turn your body, you need to make sure that your nose still points towards your attacker as much as possible. You need to be able to keep your eyes on there, because you take your eyes off, you don't know where your opponent is. They might have came around behind you over here, grab you, hit you, dump you, whatever. So keep your eyes on your opponent in case they move. You can get your foot down, create distance, and then get back in the fight. So I hope that helps some of y'all being able to work on your hook kick. I'm Matic, and I'll see y'all later.